Sword Art Online is a bad anime. Really bad. It belongs at the very bottom of Tartarus with the worst of the worst. Watching Sword Art Online should count as one of Hercules' 12 labors, maybe even all 12. Sitting through an episode of Sword Art Online feels worse than being chained to a rock like Prometheus, and having an eagle eat your liver every day. At least Prometheus suffered for helping humans. Watching Sword Art Online just makes you suffer for no reason at all. It aims to be clever, but watching it feels more like a bad dream than a thoughtful story. Even Ares would get tired of the dumb action in Sword Art Online. Athena would hate the bad writing, and Apollo, who loves art and music, would cry after seeing how bad this show is. Let's face it, Sword Art Online is a punishment sent by the gods. Facing Typhon would be more enjoyable than watching Sword Art Online. The Sword Art Online fanbase is somehow even worse. It's like the cursed souls in the underworld who scream nonsense forever, with no hope of rest. They defend the show like it's a sacred text written by the fates themselves. Trying to reason with the Sword Art Online fans is like trying to talk sense into King Midas after he turned everything to gold. There's no logic, only blind praise. Sword Art Online fans treat the main character like he's a mighty hero like Odysseus or Achilles, but he's more like Narcissus, staring at his own reflection and thinking he's perfect while doing nothing to earn it. The fanbase sees every flaw as a feature and every boring scene as a masterpiece. It's like watching the followers of Pan throw a wild party over a broken lyre. Sword Art Online fans say it's the greatest anime ever made, even though the story jumps all over the place and the plot gets as lost as Theseus without Ariadne's thread. Skip Sword Art Online entirely. If you want something actually good, check out the 2014 Hercules movie starring Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson. It's got solid action, brutal fights, and a fun take on the legend. The acting holds up, the pacing keeps you hooked, it leans into the mythology with style. Hercules is definitely worth watching over the mess that is Sword Art Online. Let's take a closer look at what makes the Hercules movie so entertaining. After that, we'll dive into how the film compares to actual Greek mythology, examining which parts stayed true to the original myths and which ones took creative liberties. It's always interesting to see how ancient stories are reimagined for modern audiences.
Awesome fight scene here between Hercules and the Lernaean Hydra. This movie has some great visual effects. Again, this movie definitely has some very impressive visual effects. This is a pretty epic fight scene here between Hercules and the Erymanthian boar. The Nemean lion here actually looks pretty realistic. Once again, the visual effects artist did a great job. The bones scattered on the ground here are a nice touch. It goes to show that many people have tried to fight the Nemean lion, but they all died in the process. This is a pretty epic introduction for Hercules' character. Dwayne Johnson was definitely a great choice to play Hercules. Also, Dwayne Johnson actually had to go through nearly 8 months of rigorous physical training in order to prepare for the role of Hercules. It's cool how Hercules took out all 5 of those guys with just a single blow. This movie has some great costume design. Every character's outfit here looks pretty authentic. Dwayne Johnson does a great job playing a very humble character. He has what it takes to become a god, but all he really wants is to be with his wife and kids. Hercules' speech here is very motivating. Once again, Dwayne Johnson does a great job playing Hercules. Another epic speech from Hercules here. Whoa, that is brutal. This movie definitely has some very cool action scenes. Awesome fight scene here. This entire large-scale battle is very impressive. It's cool how this movie gives a more grounded and realistic interpretation of Hercules. He's not some invincible and unbeatable demigod like you see or hear in the other stories. He's just a regular guy who's very strong. It makes sense why Hercules avoided the question here. It goes to show that he still has not gotten over the deaths of his children. This is a very awesome training montage. The background music does a good job hyping up this entire montage scene. Once again, it's cool how this movie gives a more grounded and realistic interpretation on everything. The centaurs are just regular guys on horses. People couldn't see them clearly, so the stories got exaggerated. That's how the legends came to be. Yet another epic speech from Hercules here. This is another awesome large-scale fight scene here. This movie definitely has some very impressive action sequences. Pretty epic moment here. It's cool how Amphiaraus was able to not get hit by any of those flaming arrows. This is a very clever scene. It shows how Erginia has compassion for others while Codus does not. Later in the movie, we find out that Codus is actually the villain of this movie. This scene definitely fits his cruel personality. John Hurt does a great job delivering his lines in this scene. He sounds very twisted and corrupt. Hercules choosing to stay and fight definitely fits his personality. He's very resilient and he doesn't give up. Very touching moment here between Hercules and his comrades. Dwayne Johnson does a great job reacting in this scene. You can really feel his anger and sadness. This is a very epic scene. During During the shooting of the scene, Dwayne Johnson actually said that he blacked out after every take. He asked the prop department to lock him in with real steel chains that couldn't break, so that the performance would be real. Awesome fight scene here between Hercules and these wolves. It's cool how Hercules is finally able to get revenge for his wife and children. Pretty hilarious moment here. It's funny how Hercules snatched the flaming spear and then threw it back at that guy. John Hurt does a great job playing a cruel and ruthless character. He's even willing to kill his own grandson if Hercules doesn't surrender. Another very impressive large-scale fight scene here. This movie certainly doesn't cut back on the awesome action sequences. This movie has some great visual effects. The fire here actually looks pretty realistic. Very tragic moment here. This movie does a great job making Titius's death very sad and heartbreaking. The movie does a great job making this a very brutal death scene. Codus finally got his comeuppance. Pretty epic moment here. It's also cool how the lightning flashed in the background. Awesome end credits. It definitely fits with the style and theme of this movie. It's nice how this movie is paying its respects to Steve Moore. This movie is actually based on Hercules the Thracian Wars written by Steve Moore. Thanks for watching and see you in the next video.
Let's analyze the Hercules movie from 2014 and compare it to the epic tales of Greek mythology. Get ready to discover the surprising twists, the mythic truths, and all the differences in between. We'll begin with the title and the protagonist. In Greek mythology, Heracles is the original name, not Hercules. When the myths were adopted by the Romans, they renamed many gods and heroes, so Heracles became known as Hercules. Even though the name was changed, his stories and traits mostly stayed the same, though there may be some variations in details and interpretations between Greek and Roman sources. Since we're focusing on Greek mythology in this video, the character will be referred to as Heracles. It's stated that Heracles was born to Zeus, the king of the gods, and a mortal woman named Alcmene. Heracles was considered to be half human and half god. This is accurate to Greek mythology. Zeus disguised himself as Alcmene's husband, Amphitryon, in order to father Heracles. This divine parentage made Heracles a demigod, endowed with extraordinary strength and heroic qualities. Alcmene had other children besides Heracles, such as Iphicles and Laonomi. Zeus's wife Hera saw Heracles as an insult, since he was a living reminder of her husband's infidelity. Alcmene chose the name Heracles, which means glory of Hera, but this failed to appease Hera, and she wanted Heracles dead. This is also accurate to Greek mythology. Hera often harbored animosity towards many of Zeus's other children, especially those born from his extramarital affairs. In Greek mythology, Zeus is well known for his many affairs with both mortal women and goddesses, often leading to the birth of various demigods and other divine offspring. Hera sent 2 snakes to kill Heracles, but he strangled them. This is true. In Greek mythology, Heracles did kill 2 snakes as a child. Hera sent 2 serpents to Heracles' crib. However, even as an infant, Heracles demonstrated his incredible strength by strangling the snakes with his bare hands. Once Heracles reached manhood, the gods commanded him to perform 12 labors. If Heracles completed all of the labors and survived, Hera agreed to let him live in peace. This statement is partially true, but needs some clarification. Once Heracles reached manhood, he was indeed tasked with performing 12 labors, but it wasn't a direct command from all the gods. The labors were imposed on him by King Eurystheus of Mycenae, as penance for Heracles killing his wife and children in a fit of madness caused by Hera. The promise that Hera would let Heracles live in peace if he completed the labors is not part of the traditional myth. Instead, completing the labors was meant to serve as a form of atonement for Heracles' past misdeeds and purify him of his sins. In some versions of the myth, Heracles was granted immortality or semi-divine status upon completing his labors, allowing him to reside among the gods on Mount Olympus after his death. Hera's hostility towards Heracles continued throughout much of his life, despite the completion of the labors. Heracles fights and kills the Lernaean Hydra. Heracles did fight the Lernaean Hydra as one of his 12 labors, but it was not his first labor. It was actually the second labor. The Hydra was a creature resembling a serpent, and it possessed numerous heads. The exact number of heads varies in different stories, but it is often said to have had 9 heads. However, some versions of the myth mention that it had as few as 5 or as many as 100 heads. Its breath and blood were extremely poisonous. The Hydra's lair was in the swamp of Lerna, near the town of Argos in the region of the Peloponnese in Greece. During the battle, whenever one of the Hydra's heads was cut off, 2 more would grow back in its place. With the help of his nephew, Heracles successfully defeated the Hydra by cauterizing each neck after decapitating it, preventing the heads from regenerating. This teamwork was essential to their success. The Hydra had an immortal head that could not be killed by conventional means. Heracles severed this head and buried it under a large rock to ensure it would cause no further harm. After Heracles defeated the Hydra, he also dipped his arrows in the Hydra's poisonous blood, making them deadly weapons for future use. Heracles then fights the Erymanthian boar, but it was not his second labor. It was was actually the fourth labor. The boar was a fearsome creature that ravaged the region around Mount Erymanthos. Hercules was tasked with capturing the boar alive and bringing it back to King Eurystheus as part of his penance. Despite the boar's ferocity, Hercules successfully subdued it and brought it back to Eurystheus. The capturing of the Erymanthian boar took place during the winter season, which is accurate to the myths, but Hercules did not use a club to capture the boar. He chased the boar up a mountain, causing it to become exhausted and get trapped in the thick snow. He then bound the boar with chains and captured it alive to bring it back to Eurystheus. Hercules fights the Nemean lion. In Greek mythology, this was actually his first labor, not the third. While on the hunt for the lion, Hercules crafted arrows to use against it, unaware of its invulnerable golden fur. Upon encountering the lion, he attempted to shoot it with his bow, only to learn of the fur's impenetrable nature as the arrow bounced off harmlessly. Eventually, Hercules lured the lion back to its cave, blocking one entrance before entering through the other. In the confined space, he subdued the beast with his club and, with his mighty strength, strangled it to death with his bare hands. There are 9 other labors not shown. These include capturing the golden hind of Artemis, cleaning the Aegean stables, vanquishing the Stymphalian birds, capturing the Cretan bull, stealing the mares of Diomedes, obtaining the girdle of Hippolyta, capturing Gereon's cattle, stealing the apples of the Hesperides, and capturing Cerberus from the underworld. This scene is set on the Macedonian coast in northern Greece. In the year 358 BC, Macedonia was a region in ancient Greece situated in the northeastern part of the Greek peninsula. The most famous figure associated with ancient Macedonia is Alexander the Great, who famously conquered much of the known world in the 4th century BCE. Macedonia does also have connections to Greek mythology. For instance, Macedon, the ancestor of the Macedonian people, was said to be a son of Zeus. However, Greek myths are typically set in a mythological past and are not tied to specific historical years like 358 BC. Instead, they often take place in a timeless world where gods, heroes, and monsters exist. While some myths may reference historical events or figures, they are not typically anchored to specific dates in the way that historical events are. So there wouldn't be a Greek myth set in the year 358 BC. The tales of Hercules were actually already well established in Greek mythology long before 358 BC. They are believed to have originated in the oral traditions of the Mycenaean civilization around the 12th to 9th centuries BCE. Hercules wears the pelt of the Nemean lion. In Greek mythology, after Hercules successfully slew the lion as one of his 12 labors, he skinned the lion and wore its impenetrable pelt as a protective garment. This became one of Hercules' most iconic attributes, symbolizing his strength and heroism. In many depictions of Hercules, he is often portrayed with a beard and long hair. These physical features were commonly associated with masculinity and strength in ancient Greek culture, and they are frequently depicted in art and literature representing Hercules as a powerful and heroic figure. However, it's important to note that artistic interpretations of Hercules may vary, and some depictions may show him with different hairstyles or facial hairstyles. Hercules has several other people helping him. There's Autolycus, Atalanta, Amphiaraus, and Tydeus. All of these characters are from Greek mythology. Autolycus was a master thief and a son of the god Hermes. He was known for his cunning and trickery. Atalanta was a renowned huntress and a skilled archer, best known for taking part in the Caledonian boar hunt and her involvement in the quest for the Golden Fleece. Amphiaraus was a prophet and a skilled warrior. He is famous for his role in the expedition of the Seven against Thebes. Tydeus was a hero and a warrior, known for his strength and bravery. Tydeus is a central figure in the story of the Seven against Thebes and is also associated with the expedition of the Argonauts. Here's a cool tidbit. Tydeus is portrayed by Norwegian actor Axel Hennie, who also lent his voice to young Heracles in the Norwegian dubbed version of the 1997 Disney film. However, none of these characters were part of Heracles' mercenary group. Heracles is often depicted as a solitary hero. He had help or fought alongside others on occasion, but these characters are not commonly associated as part of a specific group led by Heracles. The group kills a bunch of pirates. According to Greek mythology, Heracles, along with some of the other figures mentioned, did engage in battles with pirates. One notable instance involves Heracles rescuing the Theban princess, Hesione, from being sacrificed to a sea monster by pirates. Heracles captured the pirates and rescued Hesione. Thus, thus demonstrating his heroic nature and prowess in combat. Additionally, some versions of the myth suggest that Autolycus may have had encounters with pirates during his adventurous exploits. However, there are no specific myths detailing battles between pirates and Atalanta, Amphiaraus, or Tydeus. The pirate leader is named Griza. This is not a character in classical Greek mythology. Hercules saves his nephew, Iolaus, who is indeed from Greek mythology. He was a nephew and charioteer of Hercules, known for his loyalty and bravery. He assisted Hercules in many of his labors and adventures. He is often depicted as a faithful companion and helper to Hercules in various mythological tales. Hercules plans to live out the rest of his days in solitude in the barbarian lands beyond the Aegean. In Greek mythology, there's no specific mention of Hercules planning to live out the rest of his days in solitude in the barbarian lands beyond the Aegean Sea. After completing his 12 labors and various other heroic feats, Hercules did face challenges and conflicts, including his death at the hands of his wife Deianeira or by poison. However, the idea of him retiring to solitude in distant lands is not a prominent theme in the traditional myths. Erginia, the princess of Thrace, approaches Hercules and the others. Erginia is not a character from classical Greek mythology. Erginia is the daughter of King Codus. He is not a figure from Greek mythology either. However, there are historical references to a King Codus in Thrace. Codus was a common name among Thracian kings, and various rulers with this name are mentioned in historical accounts. One notable Codus was Codus I, who was a king of the Adrician kingdom. While not a mythological figure, the historical Codus and other Thracian kings may have been incorporated into mythological narratives over time, but there is no historical record of King Codus having a daughter named Erginia. Heracles is fully committed until the Feast of Dionysus. The Feast of Dionysus, or Dionysia, was an ancient Greek festival dedicated to the god Dionysus, celebrated primarily in Athens, with the most famous iteration, the Great Dionysia, held annually in spring. This multi-day event featured theatrical performances and included processions, sacrifices, libations, feasting, and revelry. It played a significant role in Athenian cultural and religious life, providing a platform for artistic expression, communal celebration, and religious devotion. Erginia wants to hire Heracles and the others to train Codus's army. They'll get paid their weight in gold. Codus is not part of any traditional Heracles myths. The characters travel to Thrace in eastern Greece. Thrace is not located in what is typically considered eastern Greece. Thrace was an ancient region in southeast Europe, situated to the northeast of Greece. It roughly corresponds to modern-day Bulgaria, northeastern Greece, and European Turkey. While it bordered Greece to the south, it was geographically distinct from the heartland of Greece, which is usually referred to as mainland Greece, or the Greek peninsula. Thrace had its own distinct culture, history, and geopolitical significance in the ancient world.
Heracles drives a chariot pulled by 4 black horses. Heracles is not commonly associated with driving a chariot pulled by 4 black horses. However, there is a famous mythological figure associated with such a chariot, Hades, the god of the underworld. According to some versions of the myth of Persephone's abduction, Hades drove a chariot pulled by 4 black horses when he emerged from the underworld to take Persephone to be his wife. The leader of Thrace's army is named General Sidicles. He is not a character from Greek mythology, but there is a historical figure with the same name. He was king of the Odrysian kingdom of Thrace, which was a significant power in the region during the 5th century BCE. He is known for his involvement in the Peloponnesian War, during which he allied with Athens against Sparta. There is a temple of Hera. It's mentioned that it took 5 years and 1,000 men to build her temple. Hera is stated to be the patron goddess of Thrace. There is no well-documented temple specifically dedicated to Hera in Thrace that is widely recognized in historical or archaeological records. However, Hera, being one of the major goddesses in the Greek pantheon, would likely have had places of worship throughout the broader Hellenic world, including in Thrace. Given the region's interaction with Greek culture, Erginia has a son named Ares. He is not a character from Greek mythology. Ares says that Heracles killed the giant Geryon with a single blow and cleaned the Augean stables in one night. Both of these feats are part of the 12 labors of Heracles, though they are usually described with some additional detail. Heracles' 10th labor was to obtain the cattle of the giant Geryon, who had 3 bodies joined at the waist. According to the myth, Heracles killed Geryon with a single arrow, or blow from his club. The cattle were guarded by the 2-headed dog Orthros, and the herdsman Eurytion, both of whom Heracles also defeated. After overcoming these obstacles, Heracles successfully drove the cattle back to King Eurystheus. For his 5th labor, Heracles was tasked with cleaning the stables of King Augeas, which housed a vast number of cattle, and had not been cleaned in years. Heracles accomplished the seemingly impossible task by diverting the courses of some rivers to wash out the filth in a single day. However, in some versions of the story, it is noted that Heracles demanded payment for this labor, which led to King Eurystheus initially refusing to count it among the 12 labors, only to relent later, there's a flashback to 3 years earlier, at the palace of King Eurystheus in Athens. King Eurystheus is a character from Greek mythology. He is best known for assigning Hercules the 12 labors. Eurystheus is often portrayed as a cowardly and spiteful king, who gave Hercules nearly impossible tasks, in the hope that he would fail and perish. Despite Eurystheus' intentions, Hercules completed all 12 labors. Eurystheus is not typically associated with having a palace in Athens. His primary residence was traditionally located in Tiryns or Mycenae, both of which were powerful cities in ancient Greece. Eurystheus' wife Antimachus is shown as well. She is indeed associated with Greek mythology. As the wife of Eurystheus, Antimachus' role in mythology is often overshadowed by her husband's interactions with Hercules. While she is not a central figure in the myths, she is mentioned in some accounts. As part of the royal family of Tiryns and Mycenae, Hercules reunites with his wife Megara and kids. Hercules was married to Megara, the daughter of Creon, king of Thebes. Together they had children, typically 2 or 3 sons. The most commonly mentioned sons are Thermachus, Creontiades, and Diacune. In the movie, Hercules also has a daughter. In most versions of the myth, Hercules and Megara do not have any daughters. Hercules mentions that this is what Elysium must look like. Elysium is part of the underworld. It is depicted as a paradise, where the souls of the heroic and the virtuous reside after death. Unlike the darker, more somber regions of the underworld, Elysium is a place of eternal happiness and peace. Often described as a beautiful sunlit meadow, Elysium is reserved for those who have lived righteous and heroic lives, often including demigods, heroes, and those favored by the gods. This contrasts with other parts of the underworld, such as Tartarus, where the wicked are punished, and the Asphodel Meadows, where ordinary souls reside. The concept of Elysium reflects Greek beliefs about the rewards awaiting those who lived virtuous lives or died heroically. It served as a source of comfort and hope for the ancient Greeks, who believed in the possibility of a blissful existence after death for those who had earned divine favor. Eurystheus is raising some peacocks. The peacock has significance, primarily through its association with Hera. The peacock was considered her sacred bird. According to the myth, the peacock's association with Hera originated from a story in which the 100-eyed giant Argus Panoptes was tasked by Hera to guard the nymph Io, whom Zeus had transformed into a heifer, to hide her from Hera's jealousy. When Hermes was sent by Zeus to rescue Io, he lulled Argus to sleep with his music, and then slew him. As a reward for Argus's faithful service, Hera took his 100 eyes and placed them on the tail of her favorite bird, the peacock. Thus, the peacock became associated with Hera, and was often depicted in art and literature as one of her symbols, serving as a representation of her divine power and majesty. Heracles brings the Hydra's heads to Eurystheus. It turns out that they're just regular people's heads, wearing Hydra masks, not actual Hydra heads. In Greek mythology, Heracles did not fight people wearing Hydra masks. Heracles did battle with the actual Hydra itself. Codus is played by actor John Hurt. He previously portrayed Zeus's old man disguised in Immortals, another movie based on Greek mythology. Heracles says that Autolycus is from Sparta, Titius is from Thebes, Atalantis from Scythia, Iolaus is from Athens, and Amphiaraus is from Argos. This information is mostly accurate, but there are a few corrections. Autolycus is associated with the region of Thessaly, not Sparta. While his exact birthplace is not always specified, Thessaly is the region most commonly associated with him. Titius is indeed from Thebes. Atalanta is not from Scythia. She is typically associated with the region of Arcadia in ancient Greece. Iolaus is associated with Thebes, not Athens. Amphiaraus is indeed associated with Argos. He was renowned for his prophetic abilities. Codus mentions that Atalanta is an Amazon warrior. Atalanta is not typically considered an Amazon warrior. She is usually depicted as a mortal huntress and heroine, rather than as a member of the Amazons, who were a legendary race of warrior women. Centaurs are shown. According to Greek mythology, centaurs have the upper body of a human and the lower body of a horse. They are often depicted as wild and unruly beings, embodying both the human and animalistic aspects of their nature. Centaurs are commonly associated with the region of Thessaly in ancient Greece, where they were said to roam the forests and the mountains. They are known for their penchant for wine, revelry, and violence, and they frequently appear in mythological stories as both allies and adversaries of gods and heroes. One of the most famous centaurs is Chiron, who is depicted as wise, noble, and skilled in medicine and music. Unlike many other centaurs, Chiron is often portrayed in a positive light and is respected by both gods and mortals. The characters train the soldiers in the shield wall technique. The shield wall technique is not directly related to Greek mythology. It originated in ancient warfare and was commonly used by various ancient cultures, including the Greeks, Romans, and Norse. The shield wall, also known as the phalanx formation, was a military tactic employed by infantry units to create a defensive barrier using their shields. This formation involved overlapping shields to form a solid wall, providing protection to the soldiers behind it and making it difficult for enemy forces to penetrate. Codus' scout Phineas mentions that the enemy has demons fighting for them. Demons, as they are commonly understood in modern Western culture, are not a prominent feature of Greek mythology. The concept of evil spirits or demons, as malevolent entities associated with temptation, sin, and punishment, atonement is more characteristic of later Christian theology and other religious traditions rather than Greek mythology. Phineas is a figure from Greek mythology, but he was not a scout for Codus. He was a king of Thrace and a prophet who appears in the story of the Argonauts. Phineas was gifted with the ability to foresee the future, but he was also cursed by the gods with blindness and tormented by harpies. Codus talks about the Bessi tribe. The Bessi tribe were not part of Greek mythology in the traditional sense. Instead, they were an ancient Thracian tribe who inhabited the region of Thrace. The Bessi are primarily known from historical sources rather than mythological ones. They were mentioned by Greek and Roman writers, such as Herodotus and Strabo, who documented their customs, cultures, and interactions with neighboring tribes and Greek city-states. Tydeus sleeps in the stable with a chain around his neck because he's more animal than human and doesn't speak. This is not accurate to mythology. Tydeus was known for his bravery and prowess in battle. Tydeus was a fierce warrior, but he was also known for his hot temper and tendency towards violence. Arius says that Hercules wrestled the Cretan bull for 7 days and 7 nights. He struck it 49 times with his club. Hercules did indeed capture the Cretan bull as one of his 12 labors, but the details of the myth do not typically include a wrestling match lasting 7 days and 7 nights, or Hercules striking the bull 49 times with his club. In the myth, the Cretan bull was a ferocious creature sent by Poseidon, the god of the sea, as a punishment to terrorize the island of Crete. Hercules was tasked with capturing the bull and bringing it back to King Eurystheus as one of his labors. According to the most common versions of the myth, Hercules successfully captured the bull by subduing it with his strength and then bringing it back to King Eurystheus. The exact method of capture varies in different retellings. Hercules gives Arius a necklace of the Nemean lion's tooth. After Hercules successfully killed the Nemean lion, he used one of the lion's own sharp claws or teeth to skin it. While there is no specific myth about Hercules giving someone a necklace made from the Nemean lion's tooth, it is consistent with the idea of him using the lion's parts as symbols of his victory. Several other characters from Greek mythology are mentioned to dwell in Elysium, such as Theseus, Odysseus, and Achilles. Theseus was a legendary king of Athens, known for his many adventures and feats of heroism. He is best known for slaying the Minotaur, a monstrous creature with the body of a man and the head of a bull, in the labyrinth of Crete. Theseus is also associated with other adventures, such as his journey to Athens and his encounters with various villains and monsters. Odysseus, also known as Ulysses in Roman mythology, was the king of Ithaca and one of the heroes of the Trojan War. He is the central character in Homer's epic poem The Odyssey, which recounts his 10-year journey home to Ithaca after the end of the war. Along the way, Odysseus faces numerous challenges and obstacles, including battles with monsters, encounters with gods and goddesses, and struggles against the forces of nature. Odysseus is generally considered to have lived after the time of Heracles. The Trojan War occurred after the completion of Heracles' 12 labors. The Trojan War is traditionally dated to around the 12th to 13th century BCE, while Heracles' exploits are typically placed much earlier in chronology. Achilles was a Greek hero and one of the central figures in the Trojan War. He was the greatest warrior among the Greeks and was known for his strength, courage, and skill in battle. Achilles' most famous attribute was his invulnerability, except for his heel, which was his only vulnerable spot. He is the main character in Homer's epic poem The Iliad, which focuses on the events of the Trojan War. Achilles' story is characterized by his conflict with Agamemnon and his eventual death at the hands of Paris, who fatally wounds him with an arrow to the heel. Achilles is also considered to have lived after Heracles. There is no single unified account of the afterlife for heroes like Theseus, Odysseus, and Achilles. Whether they were sent to Elysium after their deaths is not explicitly stated in the classical myths. Each hero's fate after death varies depending on the tradition or retelling. Hades is mentioned as well. In Greek mythology, Hades refers to both the god of the underworld and the underworld itself, which is also known as the realm of Hades. Along with his brothers, Zeus and Poseidon, Hades is one of the 3 major Olympian gods. He ruled over the dead in the realm of the afterlife. The underworld was believed to be the final resting place for the souls of the deceased. It was depicted as a dark and gloomy realm, where the souls of the dead were sent to reside after passing away. The underworld was divided into various sections. The characters journey to the heartland of the Bessi in central Thrace. While the Bessi were known to inhabit different parts of Thrace, including areas that might be deemed central, classical sources do not specifically designate a Bessi heartland. The Bessi tribe members are dual-wielding sickle weapons. There is no specific mention in ancient sources of the Bessi tribe members dual-wielding sickle weapons. The Bessi were an ancient Thracian tribe known for their fierce independence and their skill in warfare, but the details of their combat techniques and weaponry are not extensively documented in classical texts. Aeolus mentions that Heracles' fists have been dipped in the blood of the Hydra, and they are lethal to anyone but him. This statement is not accurate according to classical mythology. There is no mention in ancient sources of Heracles dipping his fist in the blood of the Hydra, or his fist becoming lethal to anyone but him as a result. In Greek mythology, there is no specific mention of all these characters collectively fighting the Bessi tribe. These characters are associated with various mythological stories and adventures, but there is no single narrative that involves all of them in engaging in a conflict with the Bessie tribe. Siddicles uses a whip. There is no specific mention in classical sources of him using a whip as a weapon. Hercules bleeds. In the myths, Hercules is depicted as experiencing wounds, bleeding, and even suffering from mortal injuries. While Hercules possessed great strength and courage, he was not invulnerable, and his mortality was a key aspect of his character. Hercules mentions that he never knew his father. The relationship between Hercules and Zeus is complex. While Zeus occasionally supports Hercules in his endeavors, their relationship is often strained due to the animosity of Hera. There's a dream sequence showing how Hercules kills his wife and kids. According to Greek mythology, in a moment of temporary insanity, Hercules believed his family to be enemies attacking him, and he slew them with his bare hands. This tragic event, known as the Madness of Hercules, is one of the most well-known episodes in Hercules' mythological story, and serves as a pivotal moment in his life and character development. Hercules has a vision of himself getting attacked by Cerberus. Cerberus is a legendary creature from Greek mythology, often depicted as a monstrous three-headed dog with a serpent's tail and a mane of snakes. He is the guardian of the underworld, tasked with preventing the souls of the dead from escaping back to the world of the living. Hercules fought Cerberus as one of his 12 labors. In the myth, Hercules descends into the underworld, where he encounters various challenges and obstacles. With the permission of Hades, Hercules is allowed to capture Cerberus and bring him to the surface, provided that he does so without using weapons. Amphiaraus says that he consulted with the Oracle of Delphi on Hercules' behalf when they were driven from Athens. The Oracle of Delphi, also known as the Pythia, was a priestess in ancient Greece who served as the mouthpiece of the god Apollo at the sanctuary of Delphi. Delphi, located in central Greece, was considered one of the most important and religious cultural centers in the ancient world. The Oracle of Delphi was consulted by individuals, city-states, and rulers seeking guidance, advice, and prophecies on a wide range of matters, including matters of state, war, and personal affairs. The Oracle would enter a trance-like state and delivered cryptic messages and prophecies believed to be inspired by Apollo. The Oracle of Delphi mentioned that Hercules must confront Cerberus. There is no specific account of the Oracle of Delphi instructing Hercules to confront Cerberus. The task of capturing Cerberus was imposed on Hercules by King Eurystheus as part of his 12 labors, not as a direct command from the Oracle. According to the myth, Hercules sought guidance from the Oracle of Delphi after he had inadvertently killed his wife and children. In response, the Oracle instructed Hercules to serve King Eurystheus and complete the labors as a means of atonement for his crimes. Virginia says that if Hercules ever returns to Athens, Eurystheus will have him executed. According to Greek mythology, Eurystheus did not explicitly vow to have Hercules executed if he returned to Athens. Instead, Eurystheus ruled over Tiryns and Mycenae, not Athens. His animosity towards Hercules stemmed from fear and jealousy of Hercules' strength and accomplishments. After completing his 12 labors, Hercules faced challenges from Eurystheus, but the threat of execution in Athens is not part of the traditional myths. It's admitted that the legends about Hercules are all just exaggerated rumors. In Greek mythology, Hercules is depicted as a legendary hero who performed extraordinary feats and accomplished great deeds. While some aspects of his stories may have been embellished or exaggerated over time, the core elements of his myths were widely believed by the ancient Greeks to be true. It's said that Zeus's master ironsmith has crafted weapons for the soldiers. This is most likely a reference to Hephaestus. He is the god of fire, blacksmiths, craftsmen, and metallurgy. He is one of the 12 Olympian gods. Hephaestus is the son of Zeus and Hera. He is often depicted as a skilled craftsman and inventor, known for creating magnificent works of art, weapons, and armor for the gods and heroes of Greek mythology. A soldier is given Heracles' shield. It's mentioned that the shield is infused with the souls of Stymphalian birds from Heracles' 6th labor. Heracles is not typically depicted as carrying a shield as part of his standard equipment. The Stymphalian birds were mythical creatures. They had sharp, metallic feathers, and were said to live near Lake Stymphalia in Arcadia. Heracles was tasked with driving them away as one of his 12 labors. According to the myth, he accomplished this by using a rattle provided by the goddess Athena to scare them into flight, and then shooting them down with his bow and arrows. The soldiers are shown a helmet, which is forged after Heracles' very own helmet when he defeated the demon Geryon. Geryon is not typically considered as a demon. Instead, he is described as a fearsome giant with multiple heads and bodies. Siddicles is given linothorax armor. This is a type of armor worn by ancient Greek warriors. It consisted of layers of linen or similar fabric, glued together with animal glue, and often reinforced with leather straps. The linen layers were compressed to form a sturdy and relatively lightweight armor that provided protection against weapons such as swords, spears, and arrows. Linothorax armor was popular among Greek soldiers due to its effectiveness, affordability, and ease of production compared to metal armor. Aeolus says that the armor was hewn from the skin of the Erymanthian boar. In Greek mythology, there is no direct association between linothorax armor and the skin of the Erymanthian boar. Heracles mentions Mount Asticus. This is not a prominent location in Greek mythology or classical sources, but there are several other significant mountains in Greek mythology, each with its own mythological importance, such as Mount Olympus and Mount Pelion. Amphiaraus Centaurus envisions himself dying within a week, in a place that looks an awful lot like hell. In Greek mythology, there is a concept of an afterlife realm where souls go after death, but it is not equivalent to the concept of hell, as understood in some other religious traditions, such as Christianity. As stated before, the Greek underworld is known as Hades. Mount Asticus is shown to be on the Thracian border. This isn't the case in Greek mythology, since Mount Asticus isn't a known location. The centaurs are actually just guys on horses. There are actual centaurs in Greek mythology. While centaurs are fantastical creatures, there is no indication that they were ever understood as guys on horses. The centaur's distinctive hybrid form is a central aspect of their mythology and imagery, distinguishing them from ordinary humans or horse-riding warriors. The characters encounter the warlord Rhesus. Rhesus is a character from Greek mythology, but he wasn't a warlord. He is a Thracian king who appears in the Iliad. Phineus turns out to be a traitor and he's working for Rhesus. In Greek mythology, there is no indication that Phineus betrayed his own side to work for Rhesus. Phineus is not directly associated with the events involving Rhesus in the Iliad. Aeolus says that Atalanta uses the arrows of Artemis. Artemis is one of the major goddesses, known as the goddess of the hunt. She is the daughter of Zeus and Leto. Artemis is usually portrayed as a skilled archer, carrying a bow and arrows, and is associated with wild animals, such as deer, bears, and boars. In Greek mythology, Atalanta is not typically associated with using the arrows of Artemis. Atalanta is known for her own archery skills. Rhesus is captured and publicly humiliated. This didn't happen in Greek mythology. According to the Iliad, Rhesus meets a tragic fate shortly after his arrival in Troy. The Greek heroes Diomedes and Odysseus undertake a night raid on the Trojan camp, and come across Rhesus and his men, who are asleep. Diomedes kills Rhesus and several of his men, while Odysseus steals his prized horses. This act is swift and lethal, and Rhesus does not suffer the indignity of capture or public humiliation. Ergenia mentions that her husband was the king, but Codus poisoned him to take his place. In historical records, the predecessor of Codus I was Hebrazelmus, who is now related to Ergenia. This particular plot point does not have a basis in Greek mythology. Codus says that he was a general in the army of Thrace. In historical records, Codus I was not specifically recorded as a general of the army. As a king, Codus I would have had command over the military forces of his kingdom, but his primary role was that of a ruler, rather than a military general. It turns out that Cerberus is actually just 3 wolves. In Greek mythology, Cerberus is an actual multi-headed dog, not 3 wolves. Eurystheus is working with Codus. Eurystheus and Codus are not typically depicted as working together in Greek mythology. They don't have any connection. In a flashback scene, it's shown that it wasn't Hercules who killed his family, but the 3 wolves. Eurystheus, feeling threatened by Hercules and wanting to tarnish his reputation, drugged him and made it seem like he was responsible for the tragedy. In Greek mythology, the death of Hercules' wife and children is attributed to Hercules himself. There's no account in classical Greek mythology suggesting that Eurystheus drugged Hercules and framed him for the murder of his wife and children. The executioner is played by Robert Maye. He previously played other characters in movies based on Greek mythology, such as the Minotaur in Immortals, as well as Polyphemus and Elystragonian in Percy Jackson's Sea of Monsters. Hercules fights and kills the 3 wolves. There's no specific tale of Hercules fighting wolves in the traditional myths. Hercules kills Eurystheus. In Greek mythology, Hercules does not kill Eurystheus. According to some versions of the myth, Eurystheus was eventually killed by the descendants of Hercules, particularly Hylas, Heracles' son. Siddicles is about to kill Heracles, but Aeolus stabs him to death. The real version of his character died in battle. He met his end in 424 BC at the hands of the Thracian Tribali. Titius gets shot by several arrows and dies. In Greek mythology, Titius faced his end when Melanippus, the son of Asticus, dealt him a fatal blow. The goddess Athena had plans to grant Titius immortality, but Amphiaraus, harboring a grudge against Titius, intervened. He cut off Melanippus' head and gave it to Titius, who ate it. This act disgusted Athena so much that she reversed her decision and allowed Titius to meet his demise as intended. Heracles pushes the statue of Hera from its foundations. Codus is crushed by the statue's head. There's no specific tale where Heracles pushes a statue of Hera from its foundations. It's uncertain how Codus died in real life. A thunderstorm starts. Heracles is not typically associated with thunder and lightning. Those attributes are more closely linked to Zeus, who wields lightning bolts as symbols of his power. While he is the son of Zeus, Heracles does not have control over thunder and lightning in the same way as his father. And that's a wrap on our comparison between the 2014 Hercules movie and the fascinating tales of Greek mythology. From Heracles' heroic deeds to the portrayal of the gods and mythical beasts, it's clear that while the film takes creative liberties, it still pays homage to the timeless tales of ancient Greece. So whether you're a fan of blockbuster action or ancient lore, there's always more to uncover in the legendary world of Heracles. What did you think of the movie? Personally, I really enjoyed it. Even though it took some liberties with the original myths, the film was packed with action and excitement. The battle scenes were intense and kept me on the edge of my seat the whole time. Dwayne Johnson did an amazing job as Heracles. He brought the character to life with his strong presence and great great performance. The supporting cast also did a fantastic job, making the story engaging and entertaining. Overall, Hercules was a fun and thrilling movie. If you're looking for a great action flick, with solid acting and a fresh take on a classic hero, this movie is definitely worth watching. Now we want to hear from you. What movie or show would you like to see dissected next? Whether it's another mythological epic, or a modern twist on ancient legends, we're all ears. Drop your suggestions in the comments below. Your idea might just be our next mythological adventure. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more myth-busting content. Until next time, may your adventures be as legendary as those of the mighty Hercules.
Red One isn't just another holiday movie. It could be the beginning of something much bigger. The film takes place in a world where mythical creatures and legendary figures live alongside humanity, paving the way for an expansive cinematic universe filled with thrilling adventures. This concept of a secret mythological world echoes the Percy Jackson series, where gods and monsters from Greek mythology live alongside everyday people, unseen and unknown. In Red One, familiar characters are given fresh twists, creating a larger universe where ancient myths and modern-day action collide. The groundwork laid in this film sets the stage for future movies that could explore even more legendary figures, from gods to folklore icons. Each installment could introduce characters to deepen the world and add layers of intrigue to this growing universe. The sequels could also explore different holidays and include mythological or folkloric figures tied to each celebration. These movies could feature stories from diverse cultures, highlighting how global myths and traditions overlap with the magic of the holiday season. There's an abundance of rich material to draw from, offering endless opportunities for stories and unforgettable characters. Callum and Jack would take center stage as the main characters, encountering intriguing mythological and folkloric figures along the way. Zoe would also play a key role, continuing her duties as the director of the Mythological Oversight and Restoration Authority. A movie could explore Easter, bringing the Easter Bunny to life as a mystical guardian of spring, balancing renewal and decay. A Halloween movie could dive into the darker side of the holiday, where mythical beings secretly maintain the balance between the living and the supernatural. For Valentine's Day, mythological figures like Cupid could appear. A Thanksgiving movie could introduce figures who would work in secret to maintain themes of gratitude and community. A 4th of July movie could bring American mythological figures into the fold, shaping the nation's history. For New Year's Eve, mythological beings like Janus, the Roman god of transitions, could be there to ensure the smooth transition into the new year, exploring themes of change and fate. A St. Patrick's Day film could bring leprechauns into the story, along with other figures from Celtic mythology, showing how ancient folklore shapes modern holiday celebrations. A Mardi Gras movie could bring New Orleans folklore to life and show spirits who rule over the wild celebrations. This movie would mix dark magic and festive mischief in the heart of the holiday. A Hanukkah film could delve into Jewish traditions, featuring legendary figures such as the Golem and other mystical beings connected to the holiday's rich history. It could weave together themes of magic, adventure, and heritage. A Lunar New Year movie could incorporate the Jade Emperor and the legendary creatures of the Chinese zodiac. It could focus on the enchanting realm that oversees the flow of time and ushers in the new year, blending cultural tradition with magical storytelling. For the summer solstice, a film could bring sun gods like Apollo or Sol into the spotlight, alongside mythical creatures that celebrate the power of the sun. Cosmic battles between light and shadow would take place under the longest day of the year. An Oktoberfest movie could bring Bavarian folklore to life, featuring wild nature spirits, gods of wine, and mischievous figures like kobolds, ensuring the success of the grand festival and a perfect beer harvest. A Mexican Day of the Dead movie could bring Aztec gods to life, exploring the connection between the living and the dead, with a deep dive into life, death, and the eternal bond between them. A Boxing Day film could uncover the forgotten magical side of the day after Christmas, with winter spirits balancing the chaos of post-Christmas sales and celebrations, navigating the transition between the human world and their own magical realm. As you can see, each holiday presents a chance to introduce unique characters from mythology and folklore, all while expanding the Red One cinematic universe with magical adventures. With so many holidays celebrated worldwide and a vast selection of mythological and folkloric figures to choose from, the opportunities for exploration are endless. Every holiday brings its own captivating stories to tell. What makes these tales even more exciting is that they're rooted in public domain folklore, meaning there are no licensing hurdles or complicated rights issues to navigate. This opens the door for total creative freedom, allowing the filmmakers to introduce these beloved mythical characters to a whole new generation of fans. Thanks to the familiar names tied to these holidays and their iconic figures, audiences will immediately recognize the characters, but with a modern twist or creative interpretation. This mix of tradition and innovation not only draws people in, but also keeps the story dynamic and unpredictable. Reimagining well-known mythical figures through a contemporary lens gives Red One the ability to evoke nostalgia while also offering something completely original. Striking this balance between the familiar and the new ensures that the universe remains lively, with each installment delivering both continuity and surprise. As the franchise expands to explore other holidays, the titles will need to change to reflect the focus of each movie. Since Red One is Santa's codename, it wouldn't make sense to keep it in the title if Santa isn't part of the story. Instead, future movies would adopt the codename of the central mythological character, ensuring that each title remains true to the film's theme. It's honestly shocking that no one has tried to build a cinematic universe around mythological and folkloric characters yet. Studios today spend huge amounts of money on established IPs, like how Amazon bought the rights to The Lord of the Rings to create the Rings of Power, or how Disney bought the rights to Star Wars. Meanwhile, they could make movies or shows based on public domain stories for free, without having to spend a dime on licensing. Alternatively, sticking with the Christmas theme works too, as there are many more intriguing characters from folklore and mythology to explore. Belsnickel, from German tradition, is a dark, wild counterpart to Santa Claus known for punishing naughty children. His tense relationship with Santa could add a fresh dynamic to future stories. Jack Frost, the mischievous spirit of winter, could be portrayed as both playful and powerful, controlling snow and ice. His character could shift between ally and antagonist, bringing beauty and chaos to the holiday season. Baba Yaga, the Slavic witch with a magical hut on chicken legs, could be reimagined as a guardian of ancient magic. There's also room for other figures like the Snow Queen or the Nutcracker. The movies don't even need to focus on a specific holiday. Since it's already been established that Bigfoot and the Loch Ness Monster are real in this universe, the sequels could explore other legendary creatures and myths that aren't tied to any particular holiday or festival. This opens up countless possibilities for introducing iconic monsters and folklore from around the world. For example, we could see creatures like the Chupacabra from Latin American folklore, the Kraken from maritime legends, or even mythical beings like the Yeti or the Mothman. The universe could also bring in creatures like Japan's Kappa or the Thunderbird from Native American mythology. There's so much potential to dive into legends from different cultures, making each sequel stand out. So, will Red One get a sequel? While nothing has been officially confirmed yet, the movie was designed to kickstart a new franchise. Although it didn't perform well in theaters, it found huge success on streaming platforms, racking up 50 million views in its first weekend. It became the highest viewed film debut for Amazon MGM Studios on their streaming platform. Audiences also responded positively, with the movie earning an A- cinema score and a 90% audience rating on Rotten Tomatoes. It's obvious that audiences are excited for more movies set in this universe. With the success the first film found on streaming, there's a clear demand for more adventures with these legendary characters. The team at Amazon MGM Studios is really pleased with how Red One performed on streaming and has expressed their appreciation for the entire cast and crew who brought the movie to life. Given this positive response, it looks like there's a strong chance for future collaboration between them. While the budget for Red One was quite high, future sequels could potentially have a lower budget, especially if they focus on scaling down certain aspects of the production. This would help ensure that the franchise remains profitable while still delivering the action and spectacle fans enjoyed in the first film. If they can manage the budget wisely, there's no reason sequels couldn't be just as successful. Even if the costs were the same, Amazon is one of the wealthiest companies in the world, so the budget probably isn't a major concern for them. Red One was written by Chris Morgan, known for his work on many of the Fast and Furious movies. With his extensive experience in building and expanding successful franchises, Morgan brings a wealth of knowledge to crafting action-packed stories that resonate with audiences. His proven track record suggests that he has the skills needed to create a lasting universe, making him a great fit for the Red One franchise moving forward. Red One was also directed by Jake Kasdan, the same guy who brought the Jumanji franchise back to life with Welcome to the Jungle and The Next Level. Both of those movies were huge hits, and Kasdan really knows how to make a franchise successful. With his experience building something big like Jumanji, he could easily do the same with Red One, especially if he directs the sequels and keeps the momentum going. Red One is an absolute blast from start to finish. The actors did an amazing job bringing their characters to life with so much energy and charm. It was fun watching the cast have such great chemistry and play off each other so well. The action scenes were thrilling. The visual effects were top-notch. What really stood out was the movie's message. It has a heartwarming feel that makes you smile, especially during the more emotional moments. It's a perfect holiday film that brings joy and warmth while delivering plenty of laughs and thrills. Overall, it's a fantastic time. It's the kind of movie that brings everyone together together for an enjoyable ride, and it leaves you feeling happy long after the credits roll. It was also amusing to see how the movie used mythological and folkloric elements, especially with the way they were given a modern twist. Taking these classic characters and stories and blending them into a contemporary setting added a fresh and creative angle. It made the familiar feel new and kept things captivating for the audience, while still staying connected to the timeless themes of the original myths and folklore. It would be interesting to see them expand this universe and see where the story could go next. If Dwayne Johnson's other Red movie, Red Notice, managed to get 2 sequels, there's no reason Red 1 couldn't follow the same path. With its unique concept and plenty of room for new adventures, it seems like a natural fit for a larger series. Fans would certainly enjoy seeing what else this world has to offer. With so many movies based on established IPs coming out, it's a breath of fresh air to see something original. While it draws on characters from mythology and folklore, the filmmakers put their own spin on them and take the story in a new direction. If you enjoyed the video, be sure to like, comment, and subscribe for more mythological content. Thanks for tuning in, and catch you in the next video.
The Legend of Hercules attempts to tell the origin story of the great hero, but what it actually delivers is a bargain bin knockoff that barely qualifies as a movie. It's like someone watched Gladiator on a broken VHS, had a fever dream about Greek mythology, and then asked their dog to write the script. Starring Kellen Lutz as Hercules, because why bother with accuracy when you can slap on the more marketable Roman name, cash the check, and call it a day? The movie follows him as he fights his way out of slavery, discovers his true identity, and takes on the evil King Amphitryon. Sounds epic, right? Well, lower your expectations. This movie looks so cheap, it could be mistaken for an SNL sketch. I half expected a laugh track and a surprise cameo from Pete Davidson. The movie has all the grandeur of a History Channel reenactment. If you've ever wondered what Greek mythology would look like if it was directed by someone who skimmed the Wikipedia page 5 minutes before filming, here's your answer. The Legend of Hercules was one of 3 Hercules movies released in 2014. Yes, 3, because apparently one bad Hercules movie a year wasn't enough. And we got Hercules Reborn from the Asylum, a laughable, low-budget train wreck. But what else do you expect from the Asylum? Their entire business model seems to be making cheap knockoffs for people who rented the wrong DVD. You'd think with 3 different attempts, someone would have gotten it right at least once. But no, they dropped the ball every single time. It's like they were trying to prove that it's impossible to make a decent Hercules movie. The Legend of Hercules was slammed for its cheesy dialogue, awful CGI, cheap production, poor acting, and completely off-the-wall take on Greek mythology. It failed to capture the epicness of the mythology and was absolutely shredded by nearly every reviewer. The Legend of Hercules currently sits at a 5% rating on Rotten Tomatoes, which is an impressive feat in cinematic failure. It even started at a solid 0%, so technically 5% is a step up, like going from rock bottom to slightly less rock bottom. Audiences were disappointed too. The movie was a huge flop at the box office, earning $61.3 million on a $70 million budget. It's safe to say the studio didn't hit the jackpot with this one. So yeah, The Legend of Hercules failed on every level. I watched the movie for free, and I still feel like I got ripped off. But don't worry, there's plenty here to laugh at, and I'm going to show you exactly why. The Legend of Hercules is a perfect example of how not to make a mythology movie, and I'll be calling the character Heracles instead of Hercules, since that's the Greek name. Right away, everything looks so cheap and fake looking. It's like a cutscene from a PS2 game, but not even a decent one. Where did the $70 million budget go? If you told me it was a money laundering scheme, I'd believe you. Immortals, another movie based on Greek mythology, had about the same budget, only $5 million more, and it looks way better than this. The movie is set in 1200 BC, which is almost the same time period as Troy, but that doesn't line up with Heracles' actual mythology. He lived before the Trojan War. By the time the Trojan War happened, Heracles was already long gone. It's like the writers picked a random ancient date without bothering to check if it made sense. The geography is wrong too. In reality, Argos is several miles inland, not directly on the shore. King Amphitryon fights King Galenus in a one-on-one battle where the winner takes it all. It's kind of like the opening fight scene in Troy, where it's a single duel instead of the 2 armies fighting. Except Troy made it look good, but at least in this movie, the king is fighting his own battles.
Imagine a king who fights his own battles.
In mythology, Galenus didn't rule Argos. In fact, he isn't even a character. They could have gone with someone like Eurystheus. Writers like Homer and Euripides depicted him as the ruler of Argos. But no, they chose to make up a name. Might as well have have called him Bob. Amphitrion's appearance is based on Gerard Butler in 300. They really should have gone for something different because all it did was invite comparisons, and you don't want people comparing you to something much better. The movie has so much unnecessary slow motion, you'd think Zack Snyder was the director. But no, this disaster was brought to us by Renny Harlin, a guy who's been in the business since 1980. Not that you'd be able to tell from this dumpster fire. You'd think someone with over 3 decades of experience under his belt would know how to make a decent movie, but this looks about as good as a student movie shot on a borrowed camcorder. I understand that making a movie isn't easy. Even making a YouTube video takes a lot of time and effort, and that's on a way smaller scale than a full-blown movie. If this was some first-time director fumbling their way through their debut, I'd cut them some slack. However, Renny Harlin isn't some clueless newbie fumbling with the camera like it's his first day on the job. This guy has been cranking out movies since before most of the cast members were born. And yet, instead of a polished mythological epic, we got something that looks like it was filmed in a backyard with leftover props from a Halloween store. If they didn't have the resources to make a good movie, they should have done literally anything else instead of unleashing this disaster onto the world. That $70 million budget could have been better spent on anything, like feeding a small country, fixing potholes, or just setting it on fire for a more entertaining spectacle. It's like trying to bake a cake with half the ingredients, throwing it in the oven, and then acting surprised when it turns into a disaster. This is the same studio that made The Hurt Locker, a movie that won multiple Oscars and had about a fifth of the budget as this one, so they should know better. It's like if a world-renowned chef, who's won awards for his 5-star meals, suddenly started serving lunchly. Renny Harlin's IMDb page arrogantly states he is the most successful Finnish film director in the history of Hollywood, which, judging by this movie and the other movies he's directed, goes to show that the competition isn't too fierce. It's not something to brag about. He also directed Cutthroat Island, one of the biggest box office bombs in history, so at least he's consistent. If there's a Hall of Fame for setting money on fire, this guy's got a lifetime membership. The movie literally set a Guinness World Record as the biggest box office bomb of all time. It's an achievement, sure, just not the kind you want. Amphitryon beheads Galenus, but his head is still attached to his body. Did they forget to CGI it properly? Amphitryon's wife, Alcmene, isn't happy with him, but why is she here? It makes zero sense for Amphitryon to bring his wife along on a military campaign. Is she his emotional support queen? And in mythology, Alcmene didn't hate Amphitryon. Their relationship was generally positive. Furthermore, the actress, Roxanne McKee, said in a 2015 interview, "I rarely watch the stuff I'm in. I don't like it. I get it. If I starred in garbage movies like this, I'd avoid watching them as well. But why would you admit that in an interview? That's like walking into a restaurant, and before you can order, the chef comes out of the kitchen and says, 'I wouldn't eat here. The food kinda sucks.' It's not a good way to inspire confidence in your work. You know a movie is bad when even the actors don't want to watch it. If the people who were paid lots of money to be there are giving it a hard pass, then what hope do the rest of us have? Why does Amphitryon need 2 women to clean him? Is he too lazy to take a bath by himself? This guy's a celebrated war hero and a king, and yet he can't handle a simple scrub down. Does he think his royal dignity will collapse if he washes himself? Iphicles is already a baby, but in mythology, he's supposed to be a knight younger than Hercules. So unless this kid figured out time travel in the womb, he shouldn't be here yet. Hercules hasn't been born. Did the writers even glance at the source material, or were they making it up as they went along? They decided to throw accuracy out the window and give Iphicles a head start for some reason, but that's just the tip of this mythological disaster. Chiron is a human now. Anyone who knows anything about Greek mythology could tell you that he's supposed to be a centaur, not a human. It would be like including Medusa in the movie, but she's a regular woman. No snakes or stone-turning glare. It doesn't make sense. The movie has fantastical elements. It's not like Troy, where they kept things realistic and grounded. Chiron tutored famous heroes like Achilles and Jason, but Alcmene isn't typically mentioned as one of his students. I guess I'm expecting way too much from one of the writers who also wrote Halloween, Resurrection, Cube 2, The Crow, Wicked Prayer, and Conan the Barbarian from 2011. With that kind of resume, it's obvious he's been perfecting the art of bad writing for years. His scripts should come with a hazmat suit and a handwritten apology for anyone unfortunate enough to read them. Seriously, does the film industry have an unspoken policy where cranking out 4 flops guarantees you another shot at failure? They're collecting bad scripts like Pokemon cards. Gotta catch 'em all. And why did Amphitryon bring his baby son son along too. Was this supposed to be a family adventure or the worst babysitting gig ever? Alcmene prays to Hera for guidance. Hera takes over a priestess's body and tells Alcmene to bear the son of Zeus. Are you kidding me? This is completely against everything in mythology. Hera hates Hercules because he's a reminder of Zeus's infidelity. She's already got a lot of jealousy and anger towards Zeus for all his affairs. As the goddess of marriage and family, Hera would never want her husband impregnating other women. They couldn't even get that basic part right. That's like making Ares a pacifist, or Poseidon being afraid of water. I'm not saying inaccuracies are always automatically bad, but if you're going to take creative liberties, at least make them good. This is just a train wreck. Other mythology movies and shows, like Blood of Zeus, are highly inaccurate and make up a lot of stuff, but they're fun and respect the spirit of the mythology. This movie, not so much. Hera names the baby Hercules because sticking with the Greek name was too hard. Jesus was taken, so they went with the next available option. An invisible Zeus somehow impregnates Alcmene, and this scene is hilarious to watch. I can only imagine the director's instructions. Alright, pretend you're experiencing the most passionate night of your life with a particularly affectionate gust of wind. Amphitryon walks in, starts swinging his sword at nothing, like he's trying to fight off a mosquito with a vendetta, and kills a nearby woman for no reason. Is this movie supposed to be a slapstick comedy? Because it certainly feels like one, whether they meant it to or not. In mythology, Zeus disguised himself as Amphitryon and slept with Alcmene. Then, the real Amphitryon shows up later that night and sleeps with her too. So she gets pregnant with twins from two different fathers, which is a real condition called heteropaternal superfecundation. But no, for this movie, they went with the invisible Zeus approach instead. Because why stick to mythology when you can confuse everyone? Did they think they were making a remake of Hollow Man or something? They don't show any of the gods in this movie, even though they're real and exist in the universe. Could they not afford to cast any actors? Or were they just like, nah, who needs Zeus, Hera, or anyone else when you've got, well, whatever this is? Making a mythology movie without any gods is like making a superhero movie and not including any superheroes. Amphitryon is super angry at Alcmene, but he was with another woman, so it goes to show he's not loyal towards her. The writers forgot basic character logic. Heracles is born, and Amphitryon names him Alcides, which was his birth name in mythology. He got the name Heracles later on. So, hey, credit where credit's due. They got one thing right. I'm sure the writers were high-fiving each other and patting themselves on the back like, we nailed it, guys! We didn't totally butcher everything! Shame they didn't stay loyal to the source material for the rest of the movie. Amphitryon and Alcmene also had a daughter who isn't in the movie. Moreover, Amphitryon in mythology wasn't a power-hungry tyrant. He raised Heracles as his own son, despite knowing that Zeus was the father. There's a time skip of 20 years, and now Heracles is played by Kellen Lutz, best known for playing Emmett Cullen in the Twilight movies. Not exactly the most prestigious claim to fame, but he did play Poseidon in Immortals, so it's not his first rodeo in Greek mythology, although going from a god to a demigod is a bit of a downgrade. I find it funny that in an interview, Kellen said that Heracles is the first superhero, and that heroes like Thor are derived from him.
He is where all these Thors and Captain Americas and Marvel and comic books kind of derive from.
No, Thor is based on Thor from Norse mythology, not Heracles from Greek mythology. This goes to show he's not a mythology expert.
I love mythology, I love Greek mythology, I love all mythology.
You sure about that?
This movie is the one that rips off Marvel's Thor. You've got the protagonist, a blonde good guy, battling his evil brother, who just so happens to have dark hair. Later, there's a scene where Heracles uses a lightning weapon. It's like they took the Thor script, swapped out the Norse characters for Greek ones, and thought nobody would notice. It's the Thor family drama with a much worse plot. Heracles is in love with Princess Hebe of Crete. In mythology, she's the goddess of youth and the daughter of Zeus and Hera, which makes her Heracles' half-sister. Honestly, that's not even the weirdest thing in Greek mythology. Zeus and Hera are siblings, so sibling couples are just another Tuesday in ancient Greece. And in mythology, Hebe was Heracles' last and fourth wife. After completing his labors and eventually dying, Heracles ascended to Olympus, where he married Hebe. But this movie cuts out everything that made the story interesting. It's like skipping an entire video game and going straight to the final cutscene, but with all the satisfaction of a soggy napkin and dialogue that sounds like it was written by a concussed intern. Gaia Weiss plays Hebe, which is kind of fitting because her first name comes from Greek mythology. Gaia Gaia is the primordial goddess of the earth, one of the very first deities in existence. Did they really have to slow motion the shot of the horse jumping over the log? Boring scenes aren't suddenly epic because you stretch them out in slow motion. It's like trying to make watching paint dry feel like a thrilling race by slowing it down. Hercules pulls a prank on Hebe by pretending to drown after jumping from a great height. It's not that funny. Is this what people did for fun back then? The characters share a heartfelt scene, but it comes off as bland and wooden. Bella and Edward's relationship in the Twilight movies had more spark. Hebe gives Hercules a snake necklace, which is supposed to be an important keepsake, but the dialogue is so pretentious it hurts. They're clearly trying to be Shakespeare, but end up sounding like a bad first-year theater student who just discovered a thesaurus. You can see a clasp on the back of the necklace, even though ancient Greece was a couple thousand years too early for that kind of jewelry tech. What, did the gods invent mass-produced necklace fasteners? Maybe Mount Olympus had an Etsy shop we never heard about. These night shots look awful. It's pretty obvious they shot everything in broad daylight and slapped a dark filter over it in post. Was it really too expensive to wait until actual nighttime to film? Or did they think nobody would notice? The characters fight the Nemean lion, and it looks cartoonishly small. In mythology, it was this massive, terrifying creature. But here, it's more like an oversized house cat. Direct-to-streaming movies genuinely have better CGI. There's a continuity error. Iphicles gets knocked down to the right of Heracles, and then he's standing up to the left of him. The editor must have been playing Where's Waldo instead of paying attention to the footage. Heracles strangles the lion to death, which technically follows the mythology, but this fight scene was about as epic as a sneeze. Also, why is there a random lion wandering around the woods? As the name suggests, the lion comes from Nemea, not popping up wherever the plot needs it. Maybe they ran out of ideas for locations. And the lion was part of Heracles' iconic 12 labors. But here, it feels like the filmmakers are choosing random elements from mythology, like they're at a buffet, tossing whatever they want into the movie without caring if it makes sense. How's Heracles supposed to finish his 12 labors when he speedran the first one before the quest even started? And if you were sitting there, eagerly waiting for other creatures from Hercules' 12 labors, like the Lernaean Hydra or the Erymanthian boar, well, keep waiting. It's like showing up to a party expecting cake, only to find out there isn't any. Iphicles takes credit for killing the lion, which is about as believable as Zeus saying that he's never had an affair. Iphicles feels completely miscast in this movie. The actor playing him doesn't look or sound like an intimidating antagonist at all. He's got about as much menace as a puppy in a sweater. He should stick to playing King Arthur. It also goes against mythology. Iphicles was never as strong or famous as Heracles. It's like trying to replace Heracles with a knockoff action figure.
Visual spectacle. In Zack Snyder's Justice League, the way things look on screen is really impressive. Snyder has a particular way of making everything look so cool and exciting. The camera work and how scenes are shot are amazing. The way Snyder uses the visuals and camera angles makes the movie even more thrilling to watch. The battle scenes are really awesome. They're huge, exciting, and packed with superhero fights that make you feel like you're right in the middle of all the action. Snyder knows how to make these scenes look good on the screen. It's interesting to see the heroes and villains using their powers in cool ways. SAO's visuals are like a bad video game from 1995. The animation feels lazy and stiff, like someone slapped it together in a rush. The characters look like cardboard cutouts, lacking any real depth or detail. It's like they're trying too hard to be cool, but failing miserably. You'd expect more from a show that's supposed to be visually exciting, but honestly, it's nothing but a letdown. The scale feels forced and overdone, like they're desperately trying to make everything seem grand without any real substance. The whole thing feels like it's trying to be this massive spectacle, but it's like a B-grade imitation of what it thinks epic should look like. Instead of being gripping and intense, it's more like a poorly choreographed dance routine that falls flat. Character development. In Zack Snyder's Justice League, each character gets more time to tell their story. You learn more about where they come from, what drives them, and why they're fighting. It's like getting a bigger picture of who they are. You get to know these characters much better as individuals. SAO's character development is as shallow as a kiddie pool. You'd expect some evolution or some change, but no. It's like these characters are stuck on a loop, going through the motions without any real development. The main characters are as interesting as watching paint dry. It's like the writers couldn't be bothered bothered to give them any real personality. The side characters pop in, do their thing, and vanish without leaving any lasting impression. Length allows depth. In Zack Snyder's Justice League, the movie is longer than the previous version, which means there's more time to tell the story. Because of this extra time, they can take things a bit slower and show more details. There's extra space to explore the story and get to know the characters better. The pacing feels more natural, not rushed, so you can really get into what's happening. SAO drags a simple story into an unnecessarily lengthy marathon. They take a basic plot and stretch it thinner than a piece of gum that's been chewed for hours. Instead of getting to the point, they meander around, padding it with filler episodes that add about as much value as a rock in a shoe. They're afraid of wrapping things up, so they just keep dragging it on and on. You'd think they'd learn when to cut the cord, but no, they milk it for all it's worth, making you sit through episode after episode of unnecessary fluff. By the time they get to any semblance of a conclusion, you're just exhausted and wondering why they didn't get to the point hours ago. It's like watching a turtle race in slow motion, painfully slow and utterly pointless. Fan service and payoffs. In Zack Snyder's Justice League, there are parts that fans who love DC Comics and Snyder's previous movies will really enjoy. The movie has moments that give a nod to the comics, almost like a special treat just for the fans who know the stories well. It's like the filmmakers wanted to make sure that fans who have followed these characters for a long time feel rewarded for their dedication. There are references, surprises, and connections to past stories or details that fans will recognize and appreciate. SAO's idea of fan service and payoffs is like throwing random scraps to hungry dogs and expecting them to be satisfied. It's so forced and cringeworthy. The fan service moments feel like they were shoved in just to please certain fans, without any real purpose or finesse. It's like they're checking off a list of things fans might like without caring if it fits the story. And as for payoffs, they're about as fulfilling as an empty promise. You wait and wait for some kind of satisfying conclusion or resolution, but what do you get? A disappointing fizzle. It's like they build up all this anticipation, only to let it crash and burn like a failed fireworks show. You're left scratching your head, wondering what the point of all that build-up was, because the payoff feels like a slap in the face. It's like they don't care about giving fans a proper, meaningful payoff for investing their time. Just a big, fat disappointment. Music and score. In Zack Snyder's Justice League, the music plays a big part in making the movie feel powerful and emotional. The songs and music by Junkie XL fit perfectly with what's happening on screen. They help set the mood for different scenes. You might notice how the music matches the feelings of the characters or the action, making everything you see on screen even more intense or touching. SAO's music and score is so forgettable and generic that it might as well not exist. The music feels like it's trying so hard to be epic and emotional, but it's as bland as plain toast. Instead of enhancing the scenes, it's more like background noise that you barely notice. And the score is the same uninspiring tunes played over and over again, like they just pressed the loop button and called it a day. There's no variety, no creativity, just a monotonous soundtrack that fails to add any depth or emotion to the story. It's like they hired someone's little brother with a Casio keyboard to make the music. It's genuinely that bad. Consistent tone. In Zack Snyder's Justice League, the movie keeps the same feeling and mood from start to finish. It doesn't change its style or the way it tells the story. This helps it feel more like a complete and connected movie instead of having parts that might seem different or out of place. The whole film follows a similar vibe throughout, making it feel like a unified story. SAO's tone is as confused as a cat in a dog show. It's all over the place, like it can't decide if it wants to be a serious drama or a cheesy soap opera. One moment it's trying to be all dark and serious, and the next, it's cracking jokes like a bad stand-up comedy routine. It's like they threw different moods into a blender and hit puree without any regard for consistency or coherence. And don't get me started on the emotional roller coaster. It's like someone's pressing random buttons on a mood switch. SAO can't settle on a single emotion, swinging from melodramatic to downright cringeworthy in a matter of seconds. Instead of setting a consistent mood that fits the story, SAO is a total mess that leaves you feeling more disoriented than entertained. As you can see, Zack Snyder's Justice League is much better than SAO. Bad writing. The Last Airbender suffers from bad writing primarily due to its rushed and poorly executed plot. The film attempts to condense an entire season of the animated series into a single movie, resulting in a lack of character development and a confusing narrative. Important story arcs are either omitted or hastily addressed, leading to a disjointed and unsatisfying viewing experience. The fast-paced narrative sacrifices the depth and emotional resonance that characterize the source material, leaving little room for crucial moments to unfold naturally. naturally. This rushed approach to storytelling contributes to a disjointed viewing experience, where important events are glossed over, impacting the overall coherence and engagement of the film. SAO has bad writing due to inconsistent character development, plot holes, and rushed storytelling. The series often introduces intriguing concepts, but fails to explore them thoroughly, leaving audiences with unresolved questions. These factors contribute to a narrative that struggles to maintain coherence and engage viewers consistently throughout the series. SAO has uneven storytelling and a tendency to rush through plot points, leading to a lack of depth and character development. This fast-paced approach makes it challenging for viewers to fully engage with the narrative, as important plot developments and character relationships are rushed or underdeveloped. Wooden dialogue. The Last Airbender has stiff and unnatural character interactions. The lines delivered by the actors lack the fluidity and emotion found in the animated series, making the dialogue feel forced and disconnected. The film's characters often speak in a manner that doesn't resonate with the audience, lacking the dynamic and authentic conversations that characterize the source material. This stiffness in dialogue diminishes the relatability of the characters and contributes to a lack of chemistry among the cast, ultimately detracting from the overall viewing experience. SAO characters often express themselves in a flat and uninspired manner. Conversations lack natural flow and emotional nuance, making it difficult for viewers to connect with the characters on a deeper level. The dialogue tends to rely on cliches and predictable exchanges, contributing to a sense of artificiality that hampers the overall authenticity of character interactions. This stiffness in communication diminishes the believability of relationships and undermines the potential for more engaging and relatable storytelling. Awful acting. The Last Airbender's cast struggles to deliver convincing performances. Many actors fail to capture the essence and depth of the beloved animated characters, resulting in performances that feel awkward and unconvincing. The delivery of lines lacks emotion and sincerity, making it challenging for audiences to connect with the characters on an emotional level. This lackluster acting contributes significantly to the overall disappointment of the film, as the cast's inability to bring the characters to life undermines the storytelling and diminishes the impact of key moments in the movie. SAO has inconsistent performances from the cast. Some actors struggle to convey genuine emotions, resulting in flat and unconvincing character portrayals. The delivery of lines at times feels forced and lacks the natural expressiveness needed to make the characters relatable. This terrible acting makes it difficult for viewers to fully invest in the narrative and connect with the characters on a more authentic level. Underdeveloped characters. The Last Airbender fails to provide sufficient depth and complexity to the personalities portrayed on screen. Many characters lack the nuanced qualities and growth seen in the animated series, leaving them one-dimensional and unexplored. The film's rushed pacing contributes to this issue, as it doesn't allow for adequate time to delve into the backstories and motivations of key characters. As a result, viewers are left with a superficial understanding of the characters, making it difficult to connect with or invest in their journeys throughout the movie. SAO often neglects to explore the depth and complexity of its cast. The series introduces a variety of characters, but fails to provide sufficient backstory or meaningful growth for many of them. The narrative's focus on action and plot progression often leaves little room for the exploration of individual character arcs, resulting in a roster of characters that feel underdeveloped and formulaic. This limitation diminishes the potential emotional impact and viewer attachment to the characters within the series.
Welcome to Fantasy Fatalities, the series where we count the death toll of named characters in fantasy movies and shows. In this video, we're analyzing the Chronicles of Narnia, The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe. The movie begins during World War II, and there's an air raid. The Pevensey children, consisting of Peter, Edmund, Susan, and Lucy, take shelter in a bunker along with their mother Helen. The siblings get evacuated from their home in London. They board a train and get dropped off in the country. They're picked up by a woman named Mrs. Macready, and they head to the home of Professor Kirk, where they'll be living for the time being. Mrs. Macready is the housekeeper. The siblings decide to play a game of hide and seek. Peter will be the seeker while the other children hide. Lucy finds a room with a wardrobe. She hides inside of it and discovers a portal to the winter world of Narnia. Lucy walks to a lamppost and she runs into a faun named Mr. Tumnus. He invites Lucy to his home for some tea and snacks. Lucy likes winter, but Mr. Tumnus mentions that they haven't had a Christmas here in Narnia for over 100 years. Mr. Tumnus plays a Narnian lullaby on his flute, and it puts Lucy to sleep. Lucy later wakes up and Mr. Tumnus admits that he's kidnapping her. The White Witch gave the citizens of Narnia orders to turn over any humans they find to her. The White Witch is the one who cursed Narnia to always be winter. Mr. Tumnus has a change of heart and he lets Lucy go. Lucy returns to the real world through the wardrobe, and barely any any time has passed even though she was gone for hours. The siblings are still playing hide and seek. Lucy shows the other characters the wardrobe, but the portal to Narnia is gone. Lucy claims that she wasn't imagining anything, but the other siblings don't believe her. During the night, Lucy gets out of bed and she walks to the room with the wardrobe. Edmund sees Lucy and he follows her. Lucy opens the wardrobe and the portal to Narnia is open again. Lucy goes through the portal and so does Edmund. Edmund encounters the White Witch and her dwarf servant Arbrick. Edmund tells the White Witch about his siblings. The White Witch invites Edmund to sit with her. The White Witch creates a hot drink and some Turkish delight for Edmund. The White Witch offers Edmund the chance to become the king of Narnia if he brings his siblings to her castle. The White Witch and Arbrick depart. Edmund reunites with Lucy. She says that she was with Mr. Tumnus and informs Edmund about the White Witch. Lucy and Edmund return to the real world. Lucy tells Peter and Susan about Narnia, but Edmund insists that Lucy was just pretending and he was playing along. Lucy starts crying and she bumps into Professor Kirk. Peter and Susan speak to Professor Kirk. They tell him about the wardrobe and he believes that Lucy is being truthful. Peter, Susan, and Edmund play a game of cricket together. Edmund accidentally breaks a window. The siblings hide in the wardrobe and they go through the portal to Narnia. Peter and Susan finally believe Lucy. Peter scolds Edmund for lying and he forces him to apologize to Lucy. Peter takes several coats from the wardrobe and he gives them to his siblings to wear since it's very cold. Lucy brings her siblings to meet Mr. Tumnus. However, his house has been ransacked. There's a note explaining that Mr. Tumnus has been charged with high treason and he was arrested by the secret police. The siblings meet Mr. Beaver. He brings the characters to his house and they meet Mr. Beaver's wife, Mrs. Beaver. Mr. Beaver tells the siblings about Aslan, but they don't know who he is. Mr. Beaver explains that Aslan is the real king of Narnia. He's been gone for a long while, but now he's back and waiting for the siblings at the stone table. There's a prophecy foretelling that 2 sons of Adam and 2 daughters of Eve will defeat the White Witch and restore peace to Narnia. The siblings think that there's been a mistake since they're not heroes. Lucy wants to help Mr. Tumnus, but Peter insists that they should be getting home. Edmund is gone. He snuck off to the White Witch's castle. The other siblings intend to go and rescue Edmund, but it's too late. Only Aslan can save Edmund now, so the beavers will take the characters to him. Edmund encounters a talking wolf named Maugrim and he leads him to the White Witch. Edmund sits on the throne and he talks to the White Witch. She's angry at Edmund since he didn't bring his siblings. Edmund reveals where his siblings are. Maugrim and several other wolves go after the other characters, but they escape in the nick of time through an underground tunnel. The characters encounter a fox named Mr. Fox, and he sends the wolves on the wrong path. Mr. Fox leaves to gather more troops for Aslan. Edmund has been imprisoned with Mr. Tumnus. They introduce themselves to one another. The White Witch is mad at Edmund since the wolves weren't able to find his siblings. Edmund doesn't know where his siblings went and the White Witch is about to kill him since he's of no further use to her. However, Edmund mentions that the beaver said something about Aslan. The White Witch reveals to Mr. Tumnus that Edmund is the one who turned him in. Mr. Tumnus gets turned into a statue. The White Witch departs the castle with Edmund. In the meantime, the other siblings and beavers cross a frozen river. They make it across and hide in a cave after thinking that the White Witch is chasing them. It turns out to be Father Christmas instead, which proves that the White Witch's power over Narnia is finally starting to weaken. Father Christmas gives some presents to the siblings. For Lucy, there's juice of the fire flower. 1 drop can cure any injury, and a small dagger. For Susan, there's a bow and a quiver of arrows, as well as a horn that she can blow to call for help anywhere. For Peter, there's a sword and shield. Father Christmas departs, and the characters continue their journey. They get surrounded by Maugrim and the other wolves. The ice melts, and the characters are able to safely escape on a piece of ice. The wolves have caught Mr. Fox, and the White Witch is about to kill him. However, Edmund reveals where Aslan is, and that he's preparing for war. The White Witch turns Mr. Fox into a statue. Peter, Susan, Lucy, and the beavers finally meet Aslan. They're very surprised to see that he's a lion. Aslan welcomes the characters. They inform him about Edmund's betrayal. Peter doubts himself, but Aslan gives him a pep talk. Aslan promises to do what he can for Edmund. Maugrim and another wolf attack Susan and Lucy. Susan blows her horn. Peter comes to their rescue and he kills Maugrim. The other wolf flees and Aslan's troops chase after him since he'll lead them to Edmund. Peter gets knighted by Aslan. The wolf returns to the White Witch's camp and Aslan's troops are able to rescue Edmund. The siblings plan to stay and help the citizens of Narnia fight against the White Witch. Susan practices her archery skills. Peter and Edmund practice their sword fighting and horseback riding skills. The White Witch has demanded a meeting with Aslan and she goes to the camp. The White Witch asks if Aslan knows the laws of Narnia, but he was there when the laws were written, so of course he does. The law states that every traitor belongs to the White Witch. Aslan speaks to the White Witch in private. The White Witch relinquishes her claim on Edmund. During the night, Lucy and Susan watch as Aslan offers himself to the White Witch. Aslan traded his life for Edmund's freedom. Aslan gets shaved and bound. The White Witch then kills Aslan. The White Witch orders her troops to prepare for battle. Lucy and Susan go to Aslan's dead body. Lucy is about to use her fire flower juice, but Susan says that it's too late. Lucy and Susan use the trees to inform Peter and Edmund what happened to Aslan. Peter will have to lead Aslan's army. Peter has doubts, but Edmund encourages him to do it. The two armies gather on the battlefield and they prepare for war. The White Witch's troops far outnumber Aslan's army. The fight begins. Aslan is somehow resurrected. It's revealed that if an innocent victim who has not betrayed anyone is killed in place of a traitor, the stone table will shatter and even death itself will be reversed. The White Witch didn't know about this. Meanwhile, Peter orders the army to fall back and draw the White Witch's troops to the rocks. Lucy and Susan climb on Aslan's back and he takes them to the White Witch's castle. A centaur named Aureus kills Otman, the Minotaur who's second in command of the White Witch's army. Aslan is able to free the petrified prisoners. Peter demands Edmund to get out of here and take the girls home. Edmund doesn't listen and he fights the White Witch. Edmund destroys the White Witch's wand, but he gets stabbed in the stomach. Peter fights the White Witch. Aslan and his reinforcements arrive to help. The White Witch can't believe that Aslan is alive. The White Witch is about to kill Peter, but Aslan attacks her. Aslan kills the White Witch. Susan kills Gnarbrick. Lucy uses her fire flower juice to heal all of Edmund's injuries. Aslan depetrifies the statues and Lucy uses her juice to heal more injured Narnian troops. Sometime later, the characters get crowned as kings and queens of Narnia. There's Lucy the Valiant, Edmund the Just, Susan the Gentle, and Peter the Magnificent. Aslan leaves and Mr. Tumnus says that they'll see him again. There's a time skip of 15 years. The characters are now adults and they're chasing a white stag through the woods. They see the lamppost and go through the wardrobe back to the real world. Barely any time has passed and the characters get turned back into children. Finally, the movie ends with Professor Kirk asking the characters what they were doing in the wardrobe. Peter responds that he wouldn't believe them if they told him, but he insists that they try him. In a mid-credits scene, Lucy attempts to use the portal to Narnia in the wardrobe, but Professor Kirk informs her that he has also tried it before and that their return to Narnia is likely to happen when they least expect it.
Welcome, wizards and witches, to this thrilling video where we'll reveal the secrets to conquering the legendary Tri-Wizard Tournament in Harry Potter and the Goblet of Fire. This tournament pits champions from 3 magical schools against each other. But fear not, for we've compiled a whopping 15 ingenious tips and tricks to help you emerge triumphant. So grab your wands and get ready to discover the winning strategies that will propel you to glory in this unforgettable wizarding competition. The first task requires the champions to outsmart a ferocious dragon and snatch an egg that holds a valuable clue. Use magic. There are spells that can give you the upper hand in this treacherous encounter. With the right incantations and wand movements, you can control the dragon's movements, blind it with a flash of light, or even put it to sleep temporarily. If you're feeling particularly daring, you can try to distract the dragon with a decoy or lure it away from the egg using your own ingenuity. Use agility and athleticism. Champions who are physically fit and agile may be able to outmaneuver the dragon and get to the egg without having to use magic. They could climb over or around obstacles, jump over flames, or use their speed to dodge the dragon's attacks. Plan ahead. Champions who study the dragon's behavior and movements may be able to plan their approach and anticipate its attacks, giving them a better chance of avoiding them and reaching the egg safely. Use flying skills. Champions who have experience and skill with flying are able to use their broomstick to maneuver around the dragon, taking advantage of its size and bulk to get closer to the egg. Use the environment. Champions can use the environment to their advantage. For example, they can lure the dragon into a narrow space where it has limited mobility or use obstacles to block its path. They can also use the terrain to hide and surprise the dragon. In the second task, the champions must dive into the murky depths of the Black Lake to rescue someone dear to them. Plan and practice. The second task requires careful planning and practice to succeed. Champions should familiarize themselves with the lake and practice their underwater spells and swimming techniques before the task. Use magical items. To be able to navigate the lake and complete the task quickly, champions can use magical items like gillyweed to allow them to breathe underwater. Stay calm and focused. In a high-pressure situation, such as the second task, it's easy to panic and lose focus. Contestants should try to stay calm and focused on their goal, and not get distracted by any unexpected obstacles or setbacks. Use underwater equipment. The characters may have access to underwater equipment, such as a diving suit, a snorkel, or a submarine. This equipment can help them breathe underwater or navigate the murky depths more easily. However, they must be careful not to rely too heavily on the equipment, as it may malfunction or attract unwanted attention. Be prepared for the unexpected. The Black Lake can be full of surprises, and the champions must be prepared for the unexpected. They should anticipate potential dangers, such as hostile creatures or unexpected currents, and have a contingency plan in place. By being flexible and adaptable, the champions can overcome any obstacles and complete the task successfully. In the third and final task, the champions must summon all their courage and skill to navigate a treacherous maze and seize the coveted Triwizard Cup waiting at its very center. Use the right wall rule. A common method to navigate through a maze is to follow the right wall consistently. This approach ensures that you don't miss any passages and you always end up progressing in the same direction. The champions can choose to follow the right wall until they reach the center of the maze. Look for patterns. Look for distinctive shapes or landmarks that may repeat themselves throughout the maze. By spotting these patterns, you can begin to piece together a mental map of the maze and navigate with more confidence and ease. Use teamwork. The maze is very dangerous and complex, and the champions will face numerous obstacles and creatures. By working together, the champions can pool their skills and knowledge to overcome the challenges they face. Use magic. If the characters are allowed to use magic in the maze, they can use spells to clear obstacles or create pathways. For example, they may use a spell to levitate over a wall or create a bridge over a gap. However, they must be careful not to use too much magic, as it may attract unwanted attention or backfire. Use a compass. If you have a compass, use it to orient yourself and determine the 4 cardinal directions: north, south, east, west. Then, navigate through the maze in a straight line towards the center, adjusting your direction as needed to stay on course. And there you have it, folks. Now you're all set to conquer the Triwizard Tournament like a true wizarding champion. Just remember, when battling dragons, merpeople, and enchanted hedges, it's always important to stay cool, calm, and collected, even if your heart is racing faster than a speeding snitch. And if all else fails, just summon your inner Hermione and rely on your wits and ingenuity to save the day. Now go forth and conquer, my fellow wizards and witches. Until next time, keep practicing your spells and honing your wand skills. Thanks for watching and subscribe for more.